come on in. Find your way in if you could and grab a seat. We'll get started here in just a second. All right. Hopefully everybody got a prayer sheet on the way in the door. There are plenty out there for you. Our Family of the Week, welcome to everybody joining us online. We have a few of you guys joining us. If you need anything, if you'd like to ask any prayer requests, you can always send in a text message, and we'd be happy. Or you can actually make a comment in the chat on YouTube if you want. We can do that as well. But this week, Family of the Week, Dave and Sue McCauley. So happy to pray for them this week. Peter Balker is our Rock Hill Police Department Military Law Enforcement of the Week. Pastor of the Week is Jerry Jaquo over at Kingsway Baptist, good friend of ours in the ministry. Missionary of the Week, Dan and Julie Wolsifer. Pray for them in Round Rock, Texas. A couple updates on prayer requests, and then I just got a call today from Kathy Clinton this afternoon. They're going to try to do a surgery on Tim, hopefully tomorrow. They talked to the surgeon today. What's going on is his lungs keep collapsing, and part of that is due to these air pockets that form. His lung is just not situated properly to be able to heal. So they're going to go in there and they're going to staple off parts of his lung that have the air pockets forming, and that will allow his lung to heal. Because apparently the air pockets form, then they burst and the lung collapses. That's how it was explained to me. I'm not a doctor, so that's about the extent of my knowledge right there. But if y'all would pray for Tim, he's possibly going to go under the surgery. I think it's laparoscopic, but I'm not really sure all the details. But that would be tomorrow is the goal. Also, if you would pray for, hang on, let me check my notes just to make sure I'm getting everything correct. They said they don't think it's going to heal unless they do something, so this is what they're going to do. There is a risk to this, but they think that this is better than doing nothing. So pray for Tim and Kathy as they go through this. He's now been in the hospital for 4 weeks. It's hard to believe, but he's been in the hospital for 4 weeks trying to get over this. If you would also pray for the Woods, Sue Wood's brother, Michael Stamey. I think he's on the prayer sheet. I don't know if we actually got to update this or not. It was on here. There it is. If you look on open it up on the inside towards the bottom there, it says Sue Wood's, my brother Michael Stamey has liver cancer. He did pass away. And so we need to pray for them as they go through this. I talked to Sue in depth about this, and she's of course kind of it's just tough. It's a tough situation. He lived in Orlando, Florida, so I think she's going to be going down there. But like his family lives in Europe. They're all scattered. I think he and his wife are divorced, and their kids are everywhere, and it's just kind of a mess. And so pray for the Stamies and for Susan as she helps with them. Also, if y'all would pray for a lady named Betty. This is Nathan and this is Karen Mackey's mom, Betty. She was transferred, I mentioned this, down to MUSC in Charleston. They live outside Walterboro, not far from Charleston, but she was transferred to the hospital there. And she was doing better. Her oxygen was improving, and then all of a sudden she took a turn for the worse. So we'll make sure we pray for her. Those are the most recent updates, that I have. Are there any other updates or prayer requests we want to add tonight to the list? Yes, ma'am.
A lot of you know that my mom, she fractured her back. Compressed fracture.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So let me just say that for those of you who can't hear. Pray for Peggy Little. She was on the ladies' retreat, and she fell. And my wife thought it was a tailbone or something like that. Like she thought,
it was just bruised.
Or bruised. She has a fracture. She fractured her back. So she's going to see the orthopedic tomorrow. So pray for Peggy Little.
The rest of us will be traveling to California next week. So please, pray for safe travels. And this is slightly selfish, but I'm traveling tomorrow, and there's supposed to be a big storm coming. So just pray for safety.
How far are you traveling? So Wendy's traveling to Greenville tomorrow. Pray for her for safety. And then the family, I guess, the whole Edenhofer clan is going to... Minus your mom. Are you driving to California or flying? Oh, that's right. Like, are you crazy? What are you? Oh, okay. So the Edenhofers are traveling. You said traveling. I imagine it would take a little bit long. I don't know. It's just my mind, the way my mind works. Well, that's fine. You can say fly. I don't care. I mean, I don't know. But pray for Eden. It's not like one is easier. You're teleported to California. Pray for the Edenhoffers as they go to California. You're visiting family, friends, and your family. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's quite the drive. I've known people to do it. I've never done it myself, but it's a few days. Yeah, depending on how much you drive. Any other? So did y'all get all those? So pray for Peggy and her back fracture. She's seeing an orthopedic tomorrow, you said?
And she can walk. She's pretty mobile.
It's going to be painful. And the Edenhoffers are traveling to California. Is that next week?
Yes,
Tuesday, and then Wendy's traveling to Greenville for tomorrow. Pray that she gets through the storm, the Wizard of Oz storms that are going to come our way tonight and tomorrow. Anything else we want to add to the prayer for tonight? How's the new house? Everything getting situated? You're all unpacked, right? Everything's exactly where it's supposed to be? That takes a lot longer than you think it should. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Ernest.
I got a text from Nathan. He said he's been home steady. She's home steady down in Charleston.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm trying to think. I just got a message from him recently that said that she took a turn. I'm trying to see. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, yeah, he just texted at 3:45 this afternoon and said she just started getting worse. So that, I guess that's an additional prayer request there. Yeah. This is for Betty. This is Nathan Mackey's mother-in-law. Yeah. There are a couple of people who we've been able to minister to over the past couple of weeks. You might have seen them. I don't believe they're saved. They've been here, a young couple. Pray for them. I don't know if they're here under the sound of my voice, so I'm going to be discreet. But y'all just pray for them, and if you have an opportunity to minister and to show love to them, and that would be great. So continue to pray. There have been some opportunities to share the gospel. I've been talking to some people who've been doing that, and it's exciting to see, but you just never know where people are, where they're coming from. Okay. Well, who would like to say our memory verse for tonight? We have two options here, James 1:14-15, and Romans 13:14, about how we handle temptations to sin. Who would like to do either one of these? Lori? Or which one are you going to do?
I'll do
James
James 1:14-15.
1:14. Okay.
But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and tempted. Then when desire is... Wait.
That's right. No, you're right.
Then when desire is conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death.
Yeah, there you go. And desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin. Sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. Is that chain that follows definitely. Each one is tempted when he's drawn away by his own lusts and ties. Given in the context there of God does not tempt anyone, we're tempted by our own desires. Anyone want to try Romans 13:14? Charles.
But put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lust.
Yeah, I heard a great illustration of this verse one time. They said, "Make no provision of the flesh to fulfill its lust." It's like when you go on a trip. If you were going on a trip, you're going on a trip, and you pack lunches for your family to go hiking or something, and everybody gets their own little lunch box. And he says sometimes when we go through life, we do that with our flesh. We make provision for the flesh. We, in fact, pack a lunch box for our flesh. We make it possible to sin rather than what is the alternative to making provision? We are to mortify the flesh. We're to starve it, to kill it. We're not to provide for it. And yet so many times as Christians, we allow for it. We make little caveats in our life, little excuses for ourselves that allows sin to reign. So we should not do that. A couple prayer requests here from Jimmy Hutto for those joining us online. He asks for Jason Bolick for his spiritual needs. He's saying also, thank God all the workers are back that had COVID. Praise the Lord for that. And pray for Stephanie. Is that Hatcher? Stephanie Hatcher has medical needs there. David Emily Curtis asked for the Ishmael family to be saved. And also for Donna Hibbs has a praise here. Her brother David, who had COVID really bad, is getting over COVID now. So that's a praise. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for handling this as William is not able to be here tonight. All right, that's all the prayer requests we have, and I didn't get any text messages from anybody adding any to the sheet, so I think that's all we got. And those of you joining online, we'll come back at 7:30. Pastor Drew's got the Bible study tonight going through Ecclesiastes. All right, thank you very much. Let's break up into small groups and pray, and then we'll come back together at 7:30.
Just about 2 minutes here. There we go. Let's go ahead and get started. Ooh, wow, that is, I can hear myself breathing there. That's good. Welcome to those of you that are here and those of you that are joining us online as well. Glad that you're here. If you did not grab a handout on the way in, you certainly can go ahead and do that now. Should be plenty out there. We are looking at, we're back in our study of Ecclesiastes this evening. And if you're watching online, of course, there's a handout available for you on the Watch and Listen page as well. So feel free to avail yourself of that. It is hard to believe that we are already over halfway through our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. I know when we started this, I said, well, we'll be taking you all the way through to the summer, and that is still the case as far as I know. But we'll have, this is our 8th time meeting together. It's our 8th lesson. And we've got about 5 more to go. So we're well over halfway, actually. In either, I was just going to mention this tonight here quickly, in either our last session together or our second to last session together, I haven't decided exactly how this is going to play out, but I'd like to answer any, or at least attempt to answer any questions that you still have. I know that we haven't covered everything about the book of Ecclesiastes, but if there's something in particular text, a passage that you're not sure what it means, or you have a lingering question about the book overall, or something along those lines, if you don't mind, feel free to submit those to me at any time, any way you'd like, and you can text it to me or send me an email. My email is just drew@harvestrockill.org, so you can send that as well, however you'd like to get that to me. But I'd love to take some time in one of our last sessions to address any questions that you might still have. I'm certain that I haven't answered all your questions. I am also planning to take, if there's a particular passage and you send it to me, I might say, yes, I'm definitely planning to talk about that. I'm planning to take a session and just talk about difficult passages. There's a number that I've kind of circled as I've gone through that really have stuck out to me as, wow, this is really tough. Like, this is pretty difficult to interpret. I'm not really sure how to take this. And I have several of those as well that I'm planning to, and that might be my response. Yep, we're planning to talk about that. But in any case, I just want to put that out there because, again, as hard as it is to believe, we only have a few more weeks really of this. So we're kind of starting to wind down a little bit. But tonight we are going to be talking, as you see on your handout, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic and what everyone loves to do, and that is work. We love work, right? I'll be honest, I've always enjoyed working hard. I don't think that there has been a job I've ever had that I didn't, at least in some way, enjoy. And I not because they were all wonderful jobs, okay? I promise you that. But, there's a way of finding enjoyment even in perhaps some undelightful, that's not a word, but whatever, less than desirable work environments, okay? There's certainly a way to find joy in that. In fact, actually, that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight. And but we're going to talk about work tonight. There's something about waking up in the morning with a new day, and you start your day. Now, for some of you, everybody has different jobs, okay? And I'm looking at everybody that I'm looking at, aside from maybe a few of the younger people and teenagers, all of you have a job, okay? And I know that some of you are stay-at-home moms, and that is a job, okay? And I you know that, but I want you to know that I know that, all right? And that is a very, very, very full-time job. The ladies went on the ladies' retreat this past week, and I always get a little taste of what my beloved wife's life is like when she goes away like that, and it just always deepens my appreciation for her. So all of us work, okay? We all work. I'm not just talking to career people. I'm not just talking to people who go out and swing a hammer. I'm talking about all of us, okay? We all have work. We all have toil. We all have things that God has given us to do. And there's just something about going out, starting the day, having a list of tasks ahead of you that you're setting out to accomplish. Going out, maybe you accomplish all of them, maybe you don't. A lot of days we probably don't, right? You start with this long list of things that you want to accomplish, and maybe you only get through a couple of them. I know in ministry it's certainly like that a lot of times. You never know what a day is going to hold, and so you may not get everything done that you're wanting to do, but you get to the end of the day and you've accomplished something, and there's delight, there is satisfaction absolutely to be found in that. I've always enjoyed that aspect of work. So I want to start with just talking about a couple of general things about work in the Bible. What does the Bible have to say about work? There's all kinds of passages that we could go to, different places we could look, but I wanted to just very big picture here. The Bible has a lot to say about work, okay? And I would highly recommend, I took some of this from the chapter in the book Disciplines of a Godly Man, and certainly for the men here, I would 100% recommend that book, Disciplines of a Godly Man by Kent Hughes. Some of this material came from that, but just a couple of broader context points here very quickly. First of all, God created work. God created work. I just want to set these things out here for our general knowledge and content before we actually get into the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm not going to look at all of Genesis 1, but you know what happens there, right? What happens in Genesis chapter 1? Creation, yeah. God creates the world. What do we call that? That's work, okay? God is working, and if you don't believe me, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2, it says, on the seventh day, God ended his what? His work, okay? So God had been working up until this point. God works, okay? God created work. God was the first one to work. We are created in the image of God, chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, etc., etc. What does that sound like? It sounds like work, yeah. Having dominion sounds like work. God is created as God works. In the very first chapter of the Bible, God works. He accomplishes things. And in the very same chapter, he tells us that we are made in his image. Therefore, in some way, and we don't, and actually Pastor Marshall is going to be talking about the image of God in man here in a little bit on Wednesday nights, probably over the summer a little bit. And what, I'm not going to get all into exactly what that means, but it means, at the very least, it means that in some way we are like God. That God has made us to be like him in some way. And I believe one of those ways that he has made us to be like him is that we find enjoyment, and he has made us to work. So we are made in the image of God. We see the example of God himself right from the very beginning. God told man to take dominion over the earth. That requires work. God set the example for us back in chapter 2, in chapter 2, on the seventh day he did what? He rested, right. So, and we also need to take that. Some of us are really good at the work part and maybe not so much at the rest part. So that's a different topic for a different day. But God created work, okay? We know that right from the outset. Work is under the curse. And I want to be very clear here on exactly what I'm saying here. Work is under the curse. In Genesis chapter 3 of verse 17, we have the curse. Then to Adam he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake, and toil you shall eat of it. And toil, that's one of the words that's going to show up a lot actually in the book of Ecclesiastes. In toil, it's going to be difficult. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns, thistles, etc. We're familiar with this. The curse, so the work did not escape the curse. Work is absolutely under the curse. Work is going to be hard. But I want to be very clear here. Sometimes we get the mistaken idea in our mind that work was the result of the curse, right? Was work the result of the curse? Absolutely not. How do we know that? It was already there. Right in the very first chapter of the Bible, God told man, take dominion. That sounds like work. So we know that that work existed long before the curse, but work was definitely made more difficult. It's more arduous after the curse, okay? And so work is definitely under the curse, okay? We want to establish that as well. So God created work. Work is under the curse. We should work for the Lord and not for men. A couple verses on this. 1 Corinthians 10:31. Therefore, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the what? Glory of God. Whatever you do, that includes, obviously, work. Whatever you do, we do it all to the glory of God. Colossians chapter 3, verse 17, whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. A few more verses in Colossians chapter 3 as well, verse 23 and 24, and whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord Christ. So we should absolutely be working for God and not for men. We don't serve men, we serve God. We work for man. Most of us have someone that we work for, okay? The work, the labor, the toil that we do, a lot of us answer to someone. The majority of us probably answer to someone, okay? And that person is a person. Yes, it is a man, but the work that we are doing is motivated by working for the glory of God. We work for God, not for man. So what does the book of Ecclesiastes have to say about work? Again, quite a bit. The toil that the Lord has given us to do under the sun. We talked about that last week. There's two words that show up in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's the word work and the word toil. I'm not a Hebrew scholar, and I don't claim to know a whole lot about the difference between those words, but from what I can gather, they're both describing work, but toil, as the English word would imply, likely has more of an emphasis on the difficult nature of work. So you see the word work, that might be referring to your job, your occupation, or things like that. And this is not going to hold true across the board in the book of even in the book of Ecclesiastes. But toil also shows up, and that when we see that word, it really seems to have the idea of like, hey, this is hard, you know. And again, that really comes through in the English word, the toil. It's difficult. It's hard work. I've grouped these passages into three general categories of what Solomon is teaching us here. None of these will come as a surprise to you, I'm sure. Certainly, again, as always, nothing inspired about these categories. These are just, as I look at all the places in the book of Ecclesiastes where work, toil shows up, I look at all those verses and I say, okay, what is he teaching us about work? What is he teaching us about toil? What can we learn about work from this passage? And then I put them in categories, and some of them are a little more general, but the first one is the vanity of work, and you probably could have guessed that, the vanity of work. Now, remember when we discussed vanity that we said that there are several different ways that the word havel, or the word vanity, is used in this book. Does anybody remember any of the ways we said that the word havel might be used? Vanity. What's that? Breath. Yeah, so a breath, which would imply what? It's a vapor. It's gone. It's transitory, right? It doesn't last very long, and that's one of the things we said. It doesn't last. It might mean that it's very, very temporary. We said it also might be referring to frustration. That, see, he's talking about this is vain. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that such and such is not happening or is happening or whatever. And we also said that it could refer to what is empty. So just a couple things as far as background there. And again, you probably could have guessed that work is vain. It's the vanity of work would be one of the categories that would come up here because how often that word shows up in this book. So the vanity of work. A couple passages on this. We're not going to look at all the passages that we have listed on your handout. But 1:3 says, what profit has a man from all the labor in which he toils under the sun? He's asking kind of a rhetorical question there. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of profit. Doesn't seem like it's vain. All the labor in which he toils under the sun. Chapter 2, verse 11, then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and a grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. This is after he's listed, I did this, this, and this. I accumulated this, and this. I had all these wonderful things. I had as much as I could possibly want and more. And I looked at all of it. I looked at all the work that I had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed it was all vanity. It was grasping for the wind. It was pointless almost, you might say. It didn't really amount to anything. Chapter 4, 6 through 8. Better a handful with quietness than both hands full, together with toil and grasping for the wind. Then I returned and saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone without companion. He has neither son nor brother, yet there is no end to all his labors. Nor is his eye satisfied with riches. But he never asks, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? This also is vanity and a grave misfortune. I think we've all probably known people like this, that they work so hard and they never turn around and say, like, what am I doing all this for? What is the point of all this? And it's vanity. It's vain, he says. In chapter 5, verses 15 to 16, as he came from his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and he shall take nothing from his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. This also is a severe evil, just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has labored for the wind? I put a note on my notes here, too, that you can't take it with you. So keep it in perspective. It's not going to go with you. Just as you came, so shall you go. You've heard the expression probably that you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse, right? You can't take it with you. There's nothing that you can accumulate as much as you want here, and when you're dead, you're still dead. And none of your stuff goes with you. And so he's asking himself the question, and again, we want to remember that oftentimes he's portraying things from a strictly worldly, like earthly, under the sun perspective, right? And so he says, look, I work all my life. I gather all these things together. I work really hard. And I got to the end of it, and he says in another place, I think I left it off, but he says, I might have to leave it to somebody who's going to squander it, who's going to waste it. And I have absolutely why? Because I'm dead. And there's nothing I can do about that. And there's nothing any of us can do about that. I mean, we can make as much provision as we want in this life, and we can gather as many things together, and we can work as hard as we want, and we should. But all of us know that at the end, when it's over, it's over. And as far as we're concerned, whoever comes after us, they're going to do whatever they want. And there's not a whole lot we can do to prevent that. And that's kind of the reality that the author of Ecclesiastes has come to, that ultimately work might be vain. It might be pointless, right? It might seem pointless, right? Okay, so the vanity of work. We're going to come back to that, okay? I'm not going to leave it there. I promise. There's more, okay? But we're going to connect these things because it seems like he's saying contradictory things here. Look at the second one. He also says the vanity of work. He says the joy of work, okay? We can find joy in our work. In Ecclesiastes chapter 2, 9 and 10. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart did what? Rejoiced. My heart rejoiced in all of my labor. This was my reward from all my labor. And we're going to see this over and over again, that he found joy in directly, he draws a line directly from the joy, the rejoicing that he's doing to his work. And so I want to look at a couple more verses that also teach that as well. In 2:24, nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. God has given us work. He says there's nothing better than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor, to enjoy the work that God has given you to do and enjoy the fruits of that work. He says that's a good thing. That is from God. There's nothing wrong with that. In chapter 3, verses 12 and 13, he says, I know that nothing is better for them than to rejoice and to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. Again, very much saying the same kind of thing there in chapter 3 as well. In chapter 5, someone like to read verse 12 here. Ecclesiastes 5. Sorry, I haven't been giving you guys a lot of opportunities to read. Someone like to read chapter 5, verse 12? Thank you.
The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep.
Well, the rest of that there is my notes, actually, that somehow got copied onto the PowerPoint as well. I don't know about you, but I love sleep, and when I can't sleep, I don't love that. When you work hard, there is fulfillment, satisfaction, joy, and even rest that is found in doing that work. So there you go. That's what I had planned to say about that. Sorry about that. I don't know how that all got, but that was all I had on that on that verse. But yeah. So when you work hard, you sleep well, right? And it's not fun not to sleep. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you get to the end of the day, and I don't often have this experience now, but with 4 kids running around and stuff. But you get to the end of the day, and maybe you're on vacation. Okay, let's just give us all of us the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you're on vacation, and you get to the end of the day, and it's 10:30, whatever time you normally go to sleep. If you're Jeremy, it's 8 o'clock, that kind of thing. And you lay down, and you lay there, and you're like, man, I'm just not tired. And then you think about the day, and you think, well, I didn't really do a whole lot today. No wonder I'm not tired. Or more likely you think, I drank coffee at 5 o'clock this afternoon. That was not a good idea. I shouldn't have done that. There is a reward for working hard, and that is good rest. He says the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. If you work really hard, whether you eat little or much, I don't know about you, but like on Sunday nights when I go home after church, I can eat as much food as I want, okay, and I'm still going to hit the pillow and I'm going to be gone, okay? It doesn't matter. Now, I shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that I do that all the time. I might, but you get to the end of the day, you're tired, right? You're hungry. It's a long day, and it doesn't matter. You can eat as much as you want, and you're still going to hit the pillow and you're going to be gone, right? The sleep of the laboring man is sweet. There is a reward. There is joy. There is fulfillment in that work. We need to move forward here. There's another verse. We won't read that. But he says, enjoy the good, the same kind of idea. Rejoice in your labor. So we have that. We have the vanity of work. We have the joy of work. And then we have the commandment to work hard. In Ecclesiastes 9:10, he says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. He says, guess what? This is your shot. This is your chance. There's not going to be any more work. You're not going to have any more opportunity to work hard for the glory of God where you're going. This is your chance. You better work hard while you can. You only get one shot at this, is the idea here. So he says work hard. We ought to work hard, the commandment to work hard. And so a couple of points of application. Again, there's not going to be anything that's going to surprise you here, but I just want to kind of wrap this all up. And I want to hopefully tie in these two ideas that seem a little bit contradictory. That work is vain. There's no point. It's breath. It just goes. And at the end of the day, nothing matters. Oh, but also find joy in it, right? How do those two ideas work together? He seems to almost be saying contradictory things. But first of all, we want to recognize the vanity of work. We want to keep things in perspective. Your job, your situation, nothing is forever, okay? As he says in chapter 3, there's to everything there is a season. Nothing lasts forever. And so we need to keep things in perspective. Your job's not forever. You will not be working forever. You will work hard all of your life, and then you will leave everything for someone else, and they could blow it in a millisecond. And we have to keep that perspective. We have to recognize that. We have to leave that to the sovereignty of God. God has called us to do what he's called us to do today, and we should do that to the best of our ability and work as hard as we can for his glory. But we recognize, we hold it with a what do you call it, like an unclenched fist. We say, Lord, I'm doing everything I can for your glory, but I recognize that this is all temporary. I'm doing everything I can, and I'm working as hard as I can, but I recognize that it could all be gone tomorrow. It might be gone before we leave. We don't know. We recognize that it is, in that sense, it is vain. And that's what Ecclesiastes really is. It's a realistic philosophy of life. He's being real. He says, I realize I leave it to someone who comes after me, and they could destroy everything I've done. He's just being real. But though we recognize the vanity of our work, that does not mean that you cannot rejoice in your work. You may think that your job is extremely unpleasant and that there's no possible way that you could rejoice in your work. But I believe that God has each of us where he has each of us right now on purpose. And I believe that God does not intend for us to be miserable where he has us. With the right perspective, I believe that you can indeed find joy in your work, even if it is a very difficult job. I really struggled with this a few years ago. They just put a Bojangles up right across the street here. And some of you probably know, I'm sure some of you know, but long before I came to Harvest, Danielle and I were, right before we came to Harvest, we were up in Huntersville helping to start a church. And when we were doing that, part of my time up there, between graduating from seminary and coming here, I was a manager at Bojangles. And I spent a lot of time frying chicken on Sunday afternoons. And you'd better believe that there were some times there where you think, man, Drew, what are you doing? My schedule was I opened the store Tuesdays through Fridays, and I closed on Sundays because that was the end of the week, and we had to do all the end of week stuff. And I'll be honest, that's a tough job. All right, that's a tough clientele. That's a tough situation. Managing people and all that kind of stuff. Everything that goes along with that. I definitely struggled. Waking up, getting to the store at 4:00 every morning, 4 days a week. Not every morning, but that wasn't always fun. And I promise I did not find joy in it every day. But the Lord was good, and even during those days, I did, in fact, find joy when my heart was in the right place. There were many Sunday afternoons, where we had tailgate, people going crazy, going to the Panthers game and that kind of stuff, and it was very, very busy. And I'd be, coming in and trying to clean up from the disaster that was Sunday morning because everybody was heading to the Panthers game, and it was tough. And I definitely remember standing over the fryer and praying and saying, Lord, here I am, I'm a seminary graduate, and I'm frying chicken on Sunday afternoon. Lord, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I doing this? But I just remember having this peace and really truly being able to find joy even in a place like that. Now, some of you have harder jobs than that probably, and that you might think, I can't possibly find joy in what I do, but I truly believe that you can. Again, I believe that with the right perspective, when we see things the way that we should, we see that God has put us where he has on purpose, and even in our very, very difficult days, and all of us have them, we recognize that God has put us where he's put us on purpose, and that we can indeed truly find joy in it. We rejoice in our work, and we also recognize that it won't last forever. And we do rejoice in that as well. Everything does come to an end. And if perhaps you are in a situation where you say, I'm truly in a job that I hate, well, then find something else. Hopefully all of us, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I doubt that I'm talking to anybody in that kind of situation. I think all of us, if we look hard enough, we can find joy where we're planted. And in recognizing that God has us where he wants us on purpose. Now, again, I want to kind of address the fact that it seems like these two ideas, and we'll get to the last one here in just a moment, but it seems like these two ideas are a little bit contradictory. If work is vain, then how can I take joy in it? And don't forget that the author of Ecclesiastes is writing about life under the sun. He kind of often takes on this persona, if you will, of a person living their life outside of God. But the believer works hard and finds joy in doing their work in spite of the fact that it's temporary, in spite of the fact that it's vain, in spite of the fact that it's temporary and that it's perhaps frustrating at times. They enjoy it as gifts from God, as he says in chapter 3, verse 13 and 5:19 that we looked at. He says these are gifts from God. God has given us work as a means of bringing him glory. And there is joy to be found in working for the glory of God. We have to keep things in perspective. I think a healthy balance of what he's saying here, recognizing that, yes, work is not forever. Yes, work might be frustrating, but if we work for the glory of God, and that's our final point, we work hard for the glory of God. We looked at Colossians chapter 3 a moment ago, where he says that we work for God and not for man. We work hard for the glory of God. I put this on your handout, and I think this is, again, nothing inspired about this at all, but I think this is kind of the key to meshing these two ideas together. That if we look to our work alone for satisfaction, if we look to our toil, our job, our work, if we're looking at that for satisfaction, we are going to come up short because of the reality of life in a fallen world, because of the reality of what he has presented here, that it's temporary, and that is often frustrating, and that it's often not what we want it to be. We're going to come up short. But if we seek our fulfillment in glorifying God through our work, if we work for him, we're not just trying to make the boss happy, but we're actually truly working for God, then our work will become rich and satisfying. And I believe that we will truly find that there is great joy in work if we see it from the right perspective. So in that, situation, if I focused all my energy on trying to make my, unit director is what it was called. I was an assistant unit director, and he was the unit director. And if I focused all my energy on just making that guy who ran the store at the Bojangles, if everything in me, all I wanted to do was make him happy, it's not going to work, right? It's going to let me down. If I just wanted to make corporate happy and have good numbers for them and all that kind of stuff, man, that's going to come up short because I'm not going to get recognized. People are going to fail me. My unit director, he's going to say something mean to me or whatever, and it's going to come up short. But if I'm working for God primarily and actually seeing things through that perspective, then it's going to be rewarding and it's going to be fulfilling. So all of you, most of you, have jobs and have worked, many of you, for much longer than I have. And so I do want to just take 1 second here and see if any of you have any other thoughts on this, any other perspective from what he said, from what the book of Ecclesiastes has said, or anything that I've said that you disagree with, or anything like that. Yes, sir.
See, I don't see a discrepancy between the vanity of work and rejoicing in your work. Because the way I see vanity of work is that your work is never done.
Right.
Is the way I see it. Like once you finish a project, well, you got another project coming. So you're always going to have work. Like when God did his work, he completed it all, and he rested. But we can never get that full rest. And then one day we're going to die. So we'll still have unfinished work. So that's the way I see vanity of work. Is that if you're living to try to complete work through your life, you're not going to be able to do it.
Right.
Because your work
There's always going to be something else.
But God's still saying, well, the work you do have, rejoice in it. And do it the best as you can.
That's good. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Mike.
Work is ministry. You work with people. And the Lord's put those people in your path. And every morning that you get up out of bed, it's, Lord, how can I minister to these people today? Help me have a walk worthy of your calling. Help my speech to be with grace, seasoned with salt, that they know how to answer each one of them and be ready to give an answer. So you work with people, they've got problems, and we've got solutions.
Yeah.
So every day is an opportunity.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're working as though we're working for the Lord, then Paul says your labor is not in vain.
Yeah.
So it cancels out.
Yeah. If we're working for, that's good. If we're working for the Lord, Paul says our labor is not in vain. That's good. Charles.
Place of both of those and then one too, which is when I get frustrated with my quote work, it's quite often because I'm not about my real work, which is the ministry work.
Yeah, working for the Lord. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Also, I think when we work from the perspective that the fruit of our labor, our monies or our gifts and talents and abilities, if we're using those to kind of sort of piggyback on what these two brothers said, to help bring people to the kingdom of God, whether I'm sending money to a missionary or whether I'm paying my tithes or bringing a gift, out of the sweat of my labor, people are actually coming from just under the sun into eternity.
Yeah.
In the kingdom
There's true
of God.
satisfaction in that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we're contributing to God, like I said, if we're looking at it as more than just under the sun, mentality that my monetary gifts or whatever they are can go beyond just the natural, and they won't just fade away when I'm gone.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else? Well, thank you. Thank you for the input, and thank you for your good attention tonight. I got to let you all go, but let's pray, and we'll be dismissed. Father, we are grateful for the work that you've given each of us to do. Lord, we thank you for the ability, the privilege that it is to work. God, I pray that you would help each of us to have a biblical perspective on these things. Lord, I pray that you would help us to recognize that we are working for you, and that we would actually truly believe that and think that way. Lord, I pray you bless each of us in our work this week, and Lord, I pray you bring us back together safely on Sunday, and pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen. Thank you.